trying to justify that trip and also receive international acclaim for her new moves in the fashion arena. But for me, this was totally bizarre. Australian Women's Weekly is where she's given the interview. Now, look, I know a lot about the Australian media, okay? And this is a nice magazine. But seriously, Meghan, you've gone to the Australian Women's Weekly. That's now where you're at. You know, it's usually the type of place for sort of like Australian newsreaders and soap stars to open up about their latest wedding. Do you know what?
She flew to Australia with a carefully curated wardrobe, a hand-picked magazine interview, and a narrative she desperately needed the world to believe. But the moment royal insiders and media veterans got hold of it, the entire facade collapsed in real time. And what was left behind wasn't a fashion icon. It was a woman whose stock has fallen so far. Even the publication that ran her interview couldn't hide it. This is the story of Meghan Markle's Australia PR disaster, and why the people who know this world best are calling it one of the most transparent image operations they've ever seen. Let's rewind. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, former actress, former working royal, current resident of a Montecito mansion with a reported net worth that keeps climbing while her public approval keeps doing the opposite. For years, she and Prince Harry have been chasing relevance on the world stage, Netflix deals, Spotify contracts, Archewell Foundation announcements, and one by one, each venture has either stalled, collapsed, or been quietly buried. So when Meghan touched down in Australia, the world was watching. What was the angle? What was the play? And more importantly, who approved this? Because here's where it gets interesting. Out of every major publication in the world, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, The Times, The Guardian, Meghan Markle gave her only major interview from the entire Australian Women's Weekly. Not International Vogue, not International Vogue, not British Vogue, not even American Vogue, a magazine she has previously graced as a cover star. The Australian Women's Weekly, a beloved publication. Sure, but one that royal insiders and media veterans immediately flagged as a massive downgrade for someone still clinging to the title of Duchess. And before we even get to what she said, think about what that choice reveals. Because if you're positioning yourself as a global fashion icon, a humanitarian force, a modern royal disruptor, you don't give your comeback interview to a regional women's magazine. You go to the biggest table in the room. The fact that Meghan didn't or couldn't speaks volumes about where she actually stands in the international media hierarchy right now. But here's what she told them, and this is where it gets truly remarkable. The interview opens with the publication calling Meghan a modern-style icon and a lover of fashion. No pushback, no journalistic challenge, just lavish praise, and then Meghan herself takes over, explaining in careful, considered detail how she personally styles herself without a stylist, how she thoughtfully selected Australian designers for every appearance.
As mentioned, the Duchess styled herself. She reiterates that it was important for her to wear Australian designers on her recent trip. I love being able to wear local designers and celebrate the craftsmanship that's happening in whatever region I'm traveling to. In 2018, during my trip to Australia, I really focused on smaller labels, female-owned brands, up-and-coming designers, and brands with purpose. I have so much fun personally selecting pieces, and I was really happy to be able to do it again for this trip. It was amazing to see how many new brands are putting out such fantastic pieces, and also to revisit brands like Karen Gee, whose dresses I wore when we announced we were pregnant with Archie all those years ago. She speaks.
How she revisited labels she'd worn when she announced her pregnancy with Archie, and how she genuinely just loves celebrating local craftsmanship wherever she travels. It reads less like an interview. It reads like a press release.
And to me, Jobbo, this looks like a PR job. Okay, it looks like this has been copy approved and the full works, but I'll take you through the whole thing.
Without
okay,
doubt, yeah.
So they write, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, has long been a lover of fashion and a modern style icon. Really? Who's saying that? It was a reputation she earned even before her royal nuptials to Prince Harry. She has used her platform to showcase designers she loves and campaigns she supports. However, following her marriage to Harry, Meghan's influence in the fashion realm was palpable. It became known as the Meghan effect. The pieces she wore often sold out soon after. That continued even after she and Harry left their working royal status to raise their family in the United States. The Duchess doesn't have a stylist. Oh, I'm not big on fashion, but...
And that's exactly what royal commentators said when they reviewed it line by line. The copy had the fingerprints of a PR operation all over it, approved talking points, 0 difficult questions, a built-in commercial angle wrapped in the language of purpose and passion. Because buried inside all the noble talk about crediting designers and celebrating, craftsmanship was a partnership announcement.
Hear about an incorrect designer getting credit for something I wore either via affiliate links or press, and that never seemed fair. Credit where credit's due. These brands and designers work so hard and take great pride in their work, and I choose them for a reason, either supporting a friend, being brand loyal, or the reasons I mentioned earlier. So it always felt important to me that the correct designer is credited. Do you see where we're getting to? Do you see where we're getting to? She's trying to justify selling her outfits, okay? To that end, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, has partnered with One Off to ensure the correct designers are credited. So it's nothing to do with her making money. Nothing to do with her making money at all. Of course not. One Off is a global fashion marketplace. It allows participants like Meghan to share their looks and properly credit the designers. It also enables fans of the looks to purchase the items themselves. I mean, Jobbo,
Meghan had quietly aligned herself with Off, described as a global fashion marketplace that lets participants share their looks, credit designers, and allow fans to purchase the exact items worn. In other words, she is now monetizing her outfits, affiliate style, through a platform. While the interview positions it not as a business move, but as a moral stand for designer credit, the reaction from media insiders was immediate. This wasn't a fashion editorial. This was a commercial setup with a soft focus interview draped over the top to make it feel authentic. And the outlet that ran it? Critics argued it had essentially handed its readership and its credibility over to a celebrity PR machine, publishing what amounted to branded content as genuine journalism.
I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed for the Australian Women's Weekly publishing that. Secondly, if she really wanted to launch herself in the fashion world, Jobbo, that interview should be appearing in Vogue. It's appearing in the Australian Women's Weekly. Like, the whole fashion thing isn't going to work. But what did you make of that being her only interview from Australia?
I think that the editor of the Australian Weekly, I'm sure, is a nice person. Really ought to take a good long look at herself or himself, because that's not editing. That's just releasing press releases and allowing people to trade off your circulation and readership.
I know.
The deeper irony? Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, also wears local designers on royal tours.
But also, for her status, let's be honest, it's not even UK Vogue. It's not Tatler. This is women's. This is Australian women's week. It's just not where you do it. So it just shows you just how far she's come down. This is a woman that with her husband wants to monetize the royal family. This is why they're where they are, because they didn't want to play the game as it should be played. They wanted to do it their own way, and they wanted to make cheap bucks along the way. Well, that's what they're doing, and this is where they've come to. I personally think it's a real letdown for the king and for everyone else. I mean, look, Kate, when she goes to Australia, she wears clothes by local designers, but she doesn't. She's not getting people to buy them, so she gets the money in the bank.
She also celebrates regional labels and emerging talent. But the crucial difference? She doesn't monetize it. There are no affiliate links, no marketplace partnerships, no carefully timed interview explaining the philosophy behind her wardrobe choices. She just wears the clothes. And that restraint is exactly why her influence carries weight, and why Meghan's version of the same concept lands so differently. But the Australia trip didn't end with the interview. And this is where it started to unravel in ways that no PR team could contain. Video footage emerged of Meghan joining two young Australian influencers, a moment that was warm, genuine, and seemingly off-script. The boys offered her a beer. Classic Australian hospitality. Meghan accepted and then, despite clearly being uncomfortable, attempted to mask her reaction to the taste.
100%. And I think you're right, Jobber. It is like all of this stuff from Australia just seems to show how much her stock has fallen, because the other thing that was released this week was an interview that she did with two Australian influencers, and they're sweet kids, right? They're Down syndrome boys, and it was a nice moment, but she's not very good at acting because they gave her some Australian beer, which I'm sure you're quite fond of, Jobbo, but she couldn't actually hide.
You don't drink.
No, never. Totally teetotal. And she couldn't disguise her disgust. Watch this.
Also very good. This is a little bit lighter. Also very good. This is a little bit lighter.
And it's like, for someone who's meant to be an actress, Jobbo, it's just like, come on, just give it up. Just be yourself, you know?
Not because of the beer, but because of the performance around it, the face she made. The split second where the polished exterior cracked, and the observation that followed almost instantly. For a trained actress, it was a surprisingly unconvincing performance. Social media didn't let it go. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, a different story involving the Sussex household was going viral, and this one cut far deeper. An old speech by Prince Harry at the United Nations resurfaced online.
Jobber, I've also got to talk about this speech of Prince Harry's, which has been going viral this week. And it's interesting because it's actually not a new speech, but it has resulted in this sort of anti-establishment comedians in America coming together and really hammering this guy. So Defiant L's first posted, Prince Harry wants you to know that climate change is a serious and real issue. And this was the segment of the speech that they posted from the United Nations.
Of us feel battered, helpless, in the face of the seemingly endless stream of disasters and devastation. I understand. This has been a painful year in a painful decade. We're living through a pandemic that continues to ravage communities in every corner of the globe. Climate change wreaking havoc on our planet, with the most vulnerable suffering most of all. The few weaponizing lies and disinformation at the expense of the many.
And American commentators began tearing it apart with brutal efficiency. Comedians, podcasters, political commentators, all taking aim at a former British Army captain lecturing the world on democracy, climate change, and constitutional rights. The mockery was merciless. And it triggered something else entirely. The resurfacing of the decades-old rumor about Harry's paternity that simply refuses to die, no matter how many times it gets addressed and dismissed.
Now, Adam Carolla, Jobbo, just posted after that speech went viral, he's such a pussy. But then Rob Schneider went back to this old rumor, and I wanted to ask you about it, Jobbo. Prince Harry is an embarrassment to Princess Diana and to Captain Hewitt. And it is the rumor, Jobbo, that just never goes away, because when you compare Harry to Hewitt, they look very familiar. Now, look, you're obviously the most...
Do me a favour then. Get some of your researchers at this moment in time to do exactly what you're doing there with pictures of a young Prince Philip, and we'll come back to that. All I would say, and that's quite important because the line is down the father's side.
Royal reporters weighed in, photo comparisons began circulating again. And once more, the question that Harry has reportedly found deeply painful was being debated loudly in American media spaces. For a couple who moved to America specifically for freedom, for peace, for a life away from the relentless scrutiny of the British press. The irony of becoming a punchline in American pop culture is not lost on anyone watching. And behind all of it sits King Charles, a man fighting cancer. A man whose relationship with his youngest son has become one of the most publicly dissected father-son breakdowns in modern history. People close to the palace have noted that the ongoing media saga around Harry and Meghan, the deals, the interviews, the viral moments, the speeches, represents a source of sustained stress for a monarch already under enormous physical pressure.
Harry is putting his father through. And this is so significant, Job, and I think it's too often overlooked because a lot of people try and say, oh, the British public will forgive Prince Harry, and one day, once he's left Meghan Markle, he'll be back in the fold. Job, I'll never forgive him because it's not just Charles. I mean, I feel hugely sympathetic to Charles given his current cancer battle, but it's Catherine when she was going through her cancer. And I will never forget what he did during Prince Philip's and the late Queen Elizabeth II's dying days. So the fact that he learned nothing from that and he is now doing the same thing to his father. After that visit, Jobbo, do you remember Harry came out and said, oh, it's all about my dad now? And actually, it's like not, because he doesn't seem to give a damn how much pressure and stress he puts Charles through.
He probably doesn't realize.
A man who reportedly still loves his son. A man who reportedly cannot see his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet. A man who was told by his own son, in a best-selling memoir available globally, intimate details of private family arguments, physical altercations, and personal grievances. That memoir didn't come with a warning. It didn't come with a conversation first. It came with a publishing deal, a Netflix documentary, a Spotify contract. Meghan's Australia interview fits neatly into the same pattern. Every move wrapped in the language of empowerment, authenticity, and purpose, while the commercial machinery underneath hums quietly along.
Archie and Lilibet, and the whole business of calling her Lilibet was quite upsetting for the late Queen. All I would say is that Harry, you should wake up and smell the roses, because you're not the only person to become a father. You're not the only person to become a husband. And the way you speak about lecturing people about being a dad, it's easier. I can tell you one thing, Harry, if you're listening, and I suggest you start listening to people like Dan and myself, is that it's a lot easier to be a dad when you haven't got to worry about paying the bills. Because when you're a dad, you can talk to all the, and you've got to go to get up at 5 a.m. to go to a building site, then come home and then it's 8 o'clock at night and your wife's moaning at you and you've got 2 little kids. It's a lot harder, mate, than if you've got 20 million in the bank and you want to whisper,
So here's the question that nobody in Meghan's team seems willing to answer publicly. At what point does the gap between the brand she's selling and the reality people are witnessing become impossible to bridge? Because the Australian Women's Weekly interview didn't launch Meghan Markle as a fashion icon. It revealed exactly where she is right now, and it wasn't where she wanted to be. If any of that made you think, drop your take in the comments. And if you want more royal exposés, industry cover-ups, and the celebrity stories mainstream media won't touch, subscribe to Celebzova right now. We're just getting started.